Are you interested in habits and realities of being a personal trainer? Stay tuned. Welcome to this episode within the KIPS Podcast with the owner of Breakaway Fitness and Performance in Hampstead, North Carolina. That is Joe Rouse. And we're going to get to the episode in just a second, but I quickly want to talk about some realities of being a personal trainer. My name is Tyler Valencia. I'm the president of KIPS and Time to Train Fitness. I've been in the fitness industry for roughly 18 years. I've been a personal trainer, group exercise instructor. I own a boot camp, and I started this company, KIPS, which revolves around fitness education after working for companies like Nesta and NCCPT. A reality of working as a personal trainer is that there is a high turnover rate. It's difficult to stay in the profession. If you're entering the industry and you're thinking, oh, I'm going to be following my passion, I'm going to help people reach their fitness goals. Yes, of course, you're trying to do that, but it's not as easy. The thing I want to talk about before jumping to the episode is diversifying, trying to figure out ways to bring in income while you are growing in this industry. If you have that opportunity to stick with one job type, let's say that you're just gonna be a personal trainer, great, fantastic. If you can make a living wage doing it, keep it going. But the truth for most professionals is that you're gonna be doing different things, teaching group exercising, working with kids, running camps. Maybe you are going to multiple locations, and there is nothing wrong with that. Within this profession, there's also jobs outside of coaching. There's the educational piece, things that you might not think that you saw marketing for and thought, oh, that does interest me. That is something that I can do. Try to think outside the box, because that is a way to continue to work in this industry and hopefully make a living wage. One of the realities of working as a personal trainer, and if that is the one job that you want to try to grow, is that there are long hours in terms of early morning and late at night. And if you can grow in the middle of the day, fantastic, go for it. But think about diversifying. How can you bring in money that's going to help you pay your bills, pay for your food, and help you earn a living wage? Other jobs that help connect those pieces. So maybe on the first day of getting hired, you're asking about other opportunities in teaching group fitness. And one of the reasons why I always bring that one up is because it is a funnel towards your coaching business. If you are getting in front of members, normal members, it is not a hidden fact of this profession is that the majority of people that go to a gym, sign up for a gym, are going there for group fitness. So if you are going in front of that audience, you are showcasing your skills, showcasing your personalities. These are more opportunities that lead to setting up fitness consultations, setting up your pitch, and hopefully growing your client list. So think about those opportunities and don't be afraid to go into those. There is a coaching format, a format within group fitness for everybody out there. With that said, let's get to the episode. For the listeners out there, Joe, can you share insight on your background? How did you get into the fitness industry, what you're doing now, and your fitness education background?
Yeah, man, I've got I think it's a cool story, but let's see. Always liked working out, played football, all that stuff in high school. Never thought I'd go into the industry. I wanted to be a veterinarian because I liked animals. Yeah, I was in college. I was in community college at this point, just taking classes, stuff I didn't enjoy taking, basic studies, kind of coasting by. And I remember I had a public speaking class and I was doing terrible. Like I'd get a piece of paper, like I used red ink on this piece of paper. There'd be more red than there was white. I'll never forget the way this lady used to chop up my speeches that I was giving. And one time I gave a speech on, I don't know if you recall Willis McGahee when he played at the University of Miami.
Yeah.
And his knee, he got hit one time and his body was here and his knee went like that way. And I just happened to choose a speech on something related to ACL, PCL, and MCL injuries, but I led in with that video of his knee just getting destroyed and everybody was captivated and I got the best grade of the semester. So that led to me thinking, okay, maybe I want to go into sports medicine, which I was thinking medical at the time. Started going to a 4-year university nearby and was majoring. They were going to put me into athletic training. I was needing to work full time because I had bills to pay and all that. So I couldn't go travel with the basketball team, all that stuff. So they shifted me to exercise science. And then I just kept rolling with it, realized I was really interested in it. I really liked learning the why behind the things that I was doing or the ways that I was helping myself. And then I'd say like junior-ish year in my undergrad, my wife got pregnant with our first son. So I had to really, really tighten up and find out the fastest way to graduate so I could get the fastest way to making more money. And that was when the straight A's started coming more often. And I really started digging into research and stuff like that. After I got out of college, I started working for a hospital system. Like the plan was to go to PT school. And I waited too long to do well in my undergrad. So my GPA wasn't 3.6 or anything like that. So they didn't like me. They didn't like the fact that I had a job as a therapy tech for a couple of years. I'd been learning from PTs and all kinds of stuff. So that was that was where I was. And so I decided to pursue my master's online in kinesiology. And while I was pursuing that, then I got a job as a wellness coordinator at an older adult facility. Like a brand new facility was being built, open to the public. Basically, they're trying to get their future residents to come on campus beforehand. And I was helping them with their fitness. So I worked there for like 5 years, helped to consult, open a couple of other older adult facilities. And then I guess I kind of turned this into how I got into my business more than I did the fitness industry. But I was having lunch with my grandfather one time. My grandfather was an entrepreneur. He did not go to college, but he inherited a failing electrical contracting business and he brought it down south. He made it into a multi-million-dollar company up north, came down south, bought real estate, did well for himself. So I learned a lot from him before he passed. And I used to do work for him because he had property. So I was meeting with him one day, or I wasn't meeting, we were having lunch because we were resting. I think I had mowed the grass or something. And at this point, I probably had my master's degree, was working for that other company. And I just told him we were having lunch. I was like, hey, one day I want to own my own business. And he's like, okay, Joe. He had an empty spot in his shopping center. It's like 900 square feet. And he told me he'd give me $500 and I could have it for 4 months rent free. And then after that, it was either sustainable or you just get out. Yeah. And that was where we went. Painted the walls like highlighter, green, yellow, and blue. It was all over the place, man. It was, I got the name for my business, Breakaway Fitness, off a poster that was on the wall at the therapy clinic I worked in. It was a dude sprinting and it just said Breakaway. And I was like, I'm going to go with that, Breakaway from the ordinary. And because I had already done that before I opened my business, but that was it. It was really all a conversation and somebody taking a chance on me, that believed in me.
I like that. I like these stories of how people get to where they are and even what influenced them to start being a trainer, an entrepreneur, whatever that might be. And I think the uniqueness of it definitely shaped who you are today and what you're doing today. And something I do want to go back to, because a lot of content that I've been developing with KIPS on the YouTube channel, on the blog, has been around new PT advice. And something you mentioned that I feel like new PTs don't think about is group fitness, but also the speaking aspect of it. They think, I'm not good at public speaking. I'm going to be so afraid to step in front of a big group of people and I'm not going to know what to say, how to coach them. And they think that is this big, scary thing. But group fitness is a big business builder in my mind. It's a great way to be in front of people. With your business, you have, I believe, group fitness, and then you also bring in new trainers. What is that conversation like to them to get them ready to teach group fitness or be in front of multiple members and getting over their fears of public speaking?
It takes a year for them to develop what I just call I didn't make it up, but what I call is their swagger, when they're comfortable in front of a group. Yeah. And they've now formed relationships with everybody they're regularly working with, at least at our facility. So I've learned to be patient. I would say that's the biggest thing with our process is patience. And then as far as new coaches or new CPTs coming into the industry or getting started, be ready and willing and asking for feedback all the time, nonstop, forever, for the rest of your life. Because it'll keep you in that growth mindset, but it makes it so much easier on the person bringing you in to help develop you into what you can be. How
do you coach the interaction, the interpersonal skills? What is your advice that you usually give somebody that's new and you're telling them how to create connections? What kind of stuff are you telling them in that process?
So at this point, we hire for that almost more than we do for the education because it's much easier to teach what you're talking about, right? Like how to properly coach somebody up on a squat, on a deadlift or hip hinge, whatever it is, than it is to teach them to get out of their comfort zone, go talk to people they don't know because they're getting paid for it, right? Like you don't have a choice in the matter. You have to go talk to people because that's part of what I'm hiring you for. So my last 2 people I've hired seem to have a fairly high level of emotional intelligence. Like the last guy we hired, he had to leave because he moved, but he was actually a performer. Like he sang on stage. So getting him in front of a group was wonderful, but he needed more on the movement side. The one that we're working on right now, I think she understands things very well. She asks really good questions. She's got some knowledge, but she's a little bit shy. So when we're working with those CPTs, things that we're telling them as we're bringing them on. So we go through a similar process to what you're talking about. It's laid out in a spreadsheet that we use where they're going to coach just the warm up for maybe four onboarding days in a row. And then we'll go warm up in the next section for 4 onboarding days, and then warm up in 3 sections. And then depending on what type of workout it is, then it's co-coaching with us helping them. Then it's us sitting at the desk while they coach it. And then it's us being gone. And we have a process we go through when we're out there and I'm coaching and they're shadowing. That's the first step to getting them to start talking to people. So we have a checklist they have to use in terms of opening process, but then it's what they're doing in session. You have to say everybody's name at least once. You have to give genuine feedback, not just good job. So like specific technique things. You can't ignore long-time clients. You can't just think, hey, they know what they're doing, so I'm going to let them get after it, even though they might have a straight face and they look mean. You're still going to go up and offer your expertise because that's what they pay for. And we've got a series of 10 of those that they have to check off every session. There's like a literal checklist. We don't make them do it forever. It becomes a part of their performance reviews. If I'm talking to them individually, like today, I have the girl we're bringing on. She's great, but she loves to sort of stand over to the side and observe. I said, all right, now you have to start circulating around the room. I just want to see you walk around. Yeah. And then about 10 minutes later, I said, all right, now you have to start telling people something good they're doing. And I said, before you do it, make sure you know their names. You can go look at the tablet, see everybody's checked in. You need to say their name, but go ahead and come up with something you want to say that you would say to anybody about like a kettlebell swing, right? Like, good job snapping those hips. Way to pop up, Erica. Way to pop up, Patty. You know, something like that. So I told her, I'm like, you just go ahead and practice these in your head. Very basic, specific feedback. And I want you to go give that to 3 people. And then towards the end of the session, I'm like, all right, who did you give feedback to? What'd you say?
Every new year, we hit the ground running as fitness professionals. We're teaching new classes, trying to grow our client list, and ultimately wanting to scale our fitness careers. At KIPS, we have something new coming in January. Fitness Builder Conference. 1 day of industry professionals sharing their insight on programming and fitness business tips to help you elevate into the new year. Get helpful insight from industry fit pros that are doing it now. And at the same time, get your continuing ed. Check out the link in the description for more information, and I hope to see you there.
Getting comfortable with saying those things. I think as a new instructor, some of these phrases or even putting them together, they might seem foreign at times. You know, I mean, these are things that putting on that coaching mindset, that coaching language that you're trying to get out there, it might be new for CPTs. And so I like that you're putting them in that environment that is creating these habits that become a routine that just becomes normal for them eventually. And I think that is where I'd like to move into next with this topic here for new instructors with the habits, because this industry, I mean, I talked about it in a lot of recent videos about the turnover rate and also the inability to create good habits. They look at marketing materials that are out there for following your passion or work when you're available. And that's not really our industry. It is early mornings, late at nights. It's hustling nonstop to make it past a month, 2 months. If you make it past a year, awesome. I think that you are doing something right to get you to that point. Yeah. What are some of those habits that you think that new instructors, that they just have them or they're built in already, or that you are trying to build with them?
There's a lot of things that come to mind because I'm actually working on my own habits right now. Like I'm actually kind of dialing back to some foundational stuff.
Nice.
Going through something called the Golden Hour Challenge, where you just spend an hour a day specifically, ideally at the beginning of your day.
Mm-hmm.
And golden is just an acronym. You go to a place where you can focus, open your mind with some meditation or do a little bit of writing, lead with marketing reps. So that's the L. Like before you get into bigger projects, you do marketing first, because that's how you're going to grow, whether it's you're an individual CPT in a gym or you are a gym owner, whatever it is. You should be marketing every single day and be consistent and develop the habit of marketing daily. So let's just say, for example, a really easy one is to post once a day on social media. Find out when engagement is high on your Instagram, look at those times, try to post at those times, but do it every single day, unless you're putting out long form content maybe, or, higher level education, but just getting something up there so that you're in the habit of advertising yourself every day. The quality will improve over time. We'll get better pictures. We'll buy microphones, we'll do stuff like that, but get into that habit, lead with marketing reps. So it might be Monday, you write a blog post. Tuesday, you send that blog post to everybody on your email list and you share it on social media. Wednesday, what are we doing? I'm trying to reaching out to 5 former leads. So if you collect leads, start reaching out there. Thursday, reach out to 5 clients. So keeping them happy, like internal marketing. So we keep retention high. Friday, scheduling my social media stuff for the next week. So pre-scheduling it. Saturday is kind of getting some pictures created and things. And then Sunday, it's a quick video for my staff. So that's kind of a gym owner's perspective, but leading with the mark. So those are basically the marketing tasks every day that once you're good at those, they might take you 10, 15 minutes. And then for the remainder of that hour, that's where you go into your bigger projects. Like for me, I'm retooling our whole onboarding process right now. So that's my main focus outside of that stuff. But I've seen those simple things help grow my business over the last 6 or 7 months to being really consistent with them. And doing some things that used to I wouldn't want to do, like being a little generic with some of the posting and stuff, just so that I can speak to a specific audience that I want to attract and give them the opportunity to go to my website and meet with me. That's really just to give plenty of those opportunities. That's what it's led to.
What's interesting for me is speaking to a certain audience. That is something that I just recorded some content on that recently with finding your niche, but also how that leads into how you are marketing your business. Once you find your niche or your demographic that you really want to focus on, of course, there was an education component to this where I was mentioning how this helps then, okay, what's my secondary certification? What am I going to focus on to specialize? But being able to speak to potential customers in a manner that it relates to them. If somebody is, let's say, for example, wanting to improve their balance, they're probably not going to want to see marketing material around jumping higher for athletes and things that are not in their wheelhouse. Finding a way to communicate with them through social media is important. And I like the consistency factor of it, how you mentioned with talking to them with marketing now, because that is something that I think is very important. I think that more instructors, and this is just coming from the educational side of it, I know that fit pros tend to focus more on the programming pieces, the science aspects, because yes, those are fun. It's always great to learn more about those, but they often don't spend enough time in the marketing piece to attract new clients. And they think, oh, I don't need social media. That's not for me. Or it already passed me. What is that conversation or advice that you would give to somebody that's maybe thinking that it's not for me, or I don't need to do social media? What do you have to say for them?
I mean, it's foolish not to take advantage of it, because it's a literal free TV commercial all day long, every single day. Post as much as you want. There's strategy to it to make it better, but just being relevant is massively important. Like as in relevant within the feed on Facebook or Instagram stories, there's all kinds of approaches, but you don't have to be specific to be on people's minds or to just be available when they are ready to buy. Yeah. And if you don't do it, you can, I think we're all taught this as we go through the industry, right? Like we can survive on referrals for a pretty long time for the first while. And if you want a small business that doesn't scale, that doesn't operate well without you, then don't market. If you want to be the one, right, that runs 5 a.m. to 6 p.m., 8 p.m., whatever it is, one-on-ones or whatever you're doing, then you could probably get along with referrals for a little while, depending on how often you lose clients. But you have to market. Social is the quickest, cheap. It's free.
Yeah.
Social's free. I mean, you don't have to pay to get in a newspaper. You don't even have to pay to do ads for a long time.
I agree.
I would say absolutely do it. There's no excuses not to do it, and just work on the habit once a day.
Yeah. And you mentioned a good piece earlier with your content will get better. I think that is one thing that is often stopping people is they think, I don't know how to post this, or where should I be posting it? Just start. You will find the rhythm. You'll find the small ins and outs of it to get better, and the content will look better. You'll understand how your phone works to capture content. All these things. It's just getting started. For getting back to talking with new CPTs, new trainers, people that you're working with, what are some foundational traits that you are looking for in terms of talking about habits, but also communicating with people? What are some traits that you specifically look for in a new CPT?
That emotional intelligence piece is what I'm looking at. Like, we're going to ask them questions about how they handle situations, if they have experience, right? So it doesn't matter what their experience is, but I mean, it could be, hey, you're coaching a group of 20 people and 3 out of those 20 people are brand new. And we're doing a day where everybody's partnered up at our big 20 or 10 squat rack rig, and they were back squatting. How are you taking these people to make sure that they have the best experience possible without neglecting the other people that have been coming for 1 year, 2 years, 5 years? And so we want to see how they think through that. Like, we give them time to think through it and answer the questions. It's a little easier nowadays because we do require everybody to do personal training before they come into our sessions now. But that's one. We like to know how they deal with like certain specific difficult situations, if we can get them to answer that honestly, because it's just that emotional intelligence piece. We want to know, can we have a conversation? Do I think we're going to get along? Like, if we can get along, more than likely, like, I can train you up and everything you need to know. We just need to make sure that I want to make sure they're going to be a good staff member. Like, are they punctual? Will they show up on time? Do they take pride in their work? Are they eager to learn? Like, do they operate in that growth mindset? But can they, a good question is like, all right, we were deadlifting and you just saw Sally, just kind of like rub on her back a little bit. She didn't make a face, didn't do anything, but you saw her put her hand on her low back. How would you approach that? What does that mean to you? Can they pick up on those signs, right? Without somebody physically asking them, hey, my back's bothering me when I do this movement. Today might not be the day. Like, those things, like, can you pick up on that stuff? That's what we're trying to see.
Nice. Yeah. Something you mentioned that I know that I would look at with interns is the small pieces. How did they email? How did they set up the next conversation with me? How do they handle just the small details? I think even those are things that people look for when they're hiring somebody. Can you do the basics of being a professional? I think with being a fitness professional, you have to have that piece in there. Yes, you want to be able to show your personality, create connections with members and let them know things that you're interested in, but can you be professional before that? Can you dress appropriately? I mean, those are things that I've had to have conversations with interns with what time we're coming to coach our members and all things like that. And so can you do the small things that members are going to know that this is our standard? This is our standard that we set with this business. And I think that those are pieces that also lead to future positions. I just hearing what you're mentioning now with all the pieces that you have set up for new hires and what you're looking for, I can almost guarantee that somebody that goes through your program, they're going to be set up for the future. If they are to ever go off on their own or they have to move, whatever that might be, they have the foundational pieces set in that area. So This episode has had a lot of great insight for new personal trainers, new coaches, getting into the industry, habits, foundational items. I think those are all things that we wanted to hit. We're going to get to the podcast takeaways here and a little insight for listeners. This came from a documentary. It might be available on Amazon Prime if anybody wants to go check it out. I believe it's called Iron Cowboy. It was an individual that did 50 Ironman lengths in 50 different states. And after watching this documentary, I started following this individual on social media, and he was asked about myths for Ironman training. I was like, let me take that and flip it for the podcast and with what we do on this podcast. But Joe, what are 3 myths about the fitness industry?
First thing that comes to mind, this would be geared towards personal trainers probably, is that like sales is a bad word or like a dirty thing. Like you're going to be perceived as a car salesman, or, a dirty car salesman if you are good at sales. Learning for any CPTs who watch this, or especially new ones, like immediately go get sales training immediately. And at the very least, read a book called How to Win Friends and Influence People, and read the original one, not the one that is even updated. Read the old one because it's for door-to-door sales. And it was one of the most influential books I've ever read for me. And I've read a fair amount of books. One of those, because that's going to help you have conversations. Like if I just met you at a conference, Tyler, like I'm going to just ask you questions and listen. And because that's what that book says to do. Like it's been the greatest thing for me.
Nice.
That would be one myth, is that like sales is a dirty word. I would say in the industry in general, because of social media, everything's so, what's the word I'm looking for? It's like, it's either this or that. It's very rarely, it depends, or it's very, at least to the general consumer. So whereas maybe at one time people probably wanted, or they wanted the burn, they wanted more like cardio. Now it's kind of swung, the pendulum sort of swung way the other way for strength training, which is not a terrible thing because we can get concurrent cardio from strength training, right? That's great. But if there's anything I've learned, I'm turning 40 in March, you have to have a mix of both types of training. If you want to feel your best, look your best, be your most confident, you can't neglect a whole physiological process in your training. Yeah. You've got to have both. And if you don't like running, don't run. But things like that it's just very valuable. I've learned officially now, because I remember what I felt like when I was 33. I remember thinking that was the fittest of my life. And now that I'm 39, I kind of was going through a lull and struggling a little bit. Once I started training for these events and things I've been doing, it's led to me increasing my cardio. My strength training went from probably 4 or 5 days a week to like 3 or 4 days a week. My cardio is like probably 3 days, two days a week on a great week. And I feel better than I have in probably 5 years. And that's coming from a guy who really loves strength training, but that cardio, like just getting that in has made a massive difference in how I feel every day. That and eating a little more carbs has helped me too. Let's see. One more myth. I hate that this comes to mind. I'm just going to say it because my wife and I were discussing it.
Let's hear it.
That every woman on Instagram has a really big butt. It's not true. There's inserts in their pants most of the time. It just is what it is.
Yeah. I'm going to go back to the first one with the sales to get us wrapped up here. I think you're spot on with it, that is one of the usually most uncomfortable thing for new instructors to get going with, and understanding that, I do need that skill set. They think that, I'm just be making programs, just to be training people. Well, you have to get these people in the door. You have to get them signed up. You have to get them on your client list to get to those phases. And it's often the thing that gets them hung up and having them looking for different jobs. So I'm glad that you mentioned that one. Before we sign off here, can you give information for social media, website, anything that you have coming up?
Yeah, we're website's bfpnc.com. So like Breakaway Fitness Performance, NorthCarolina.com. You can check out our blog. We get 2 to 3 blogs a week posted that are pretty good, sometimes with the help of ChatGPT, which is something I would throw in for advice for use for anybody. If you work on your tone in ChatGPT, it'll help you with that social media production. Instagram is @BreakawayFit. We probably post most of our stuff on there. If you go to our stories, you can get a good idea of what our group training looks like. But you'll notice that a lot of what we put up is celebrating our clients. That's been one of the biggest game changers for our social media, is just really focusing on that. As far as events go or anything we've got big coming up right now, nothing. We're not hosting any courses right now. Just having one location and loving life, having one location. That's pretty much it.
Great. Well, thank you, Joe, for coming on the KIPS podcast, sharing insight for Fit Pros out there. I really appreciate your time.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.